Hi, I'm Trish Palmer, and today I'm going to ask the big question, is it irritable bowel or is it irritable brain? So when it comes to irritable bowel syndrome, it doesn't have one particular cause. That's why it's known as a syndrome. We don't actually have enough information on it to call it a disease yet. But what we are now starting to learn is that there is a huge link between the brain, the gut, and the central nervous systems. Perhaps we actually do have more than one brain and it's not in our head. So as a result of this, IBS is now being considered not as an organic issue, but as more likely a neurological bowel disorder. IBS can also be often referred to as spastic, nervous, or irritable colon. But what do these things actually mean? What's going on? Is it a bowel that's just going, you know what, I'm irritated? Or is it actually part of the brain? Let's have a talk about that. So when we think about our society of today, we stop and we have to remember what's going on, what's changed, and how have we actually evolved. We're getting more and more people with irritable bowel syndrome and more people with gut-related issues. Then we have to stop and think, is this just a food-related issue, or is there something going on externally that we're processing internally in perhaps an incorrect kind of manner? So let's just stop and think about that for just a moment. Let's begin to analyze what's going on in today's world. Oscar Wilde once said, "Life is like a song, and we should be dancing." But unfortunately, most people are just existing rather than living. We're in a society where we're constantly being told about all the bad things that are going on around us. Have you ever sat and watched the news? 90% of it is bad stuff. And then we get onto something like a current affair where it's supposed to be an inspirational story, but it's still bad stuff. Somebody is ill, somebody's being ripped off, somebody's being hurt in some way, shape or form. So that leads to the question of irritable brain. Are we actually irritated and we've become tolerant? We've just gotten into the norm of this, of constantly going, oh, the weather's going to be bad tomorrow. I have to go see this person. I've got to go do this job. Are we constantly irritated, which is causing this adverse effect, which is irritable bowel? Many years ago, when I was actually bankrupt, I didn't have a television. And what happened was I was in this room one day and I was just being content with myself. I had been homeless. It was a terrible, terrible time in my life. And I was sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save up and buy myself a television. The next door neighbour happened to have a spare television and he sold it to me for $30. I was like, this is great. Then he also said to me that he had Foxtel and we could have a second television on there if I wanted to pay half the bill for him. I agreed. I was like, you know what? Yes, I'm doing this. So the first thing I did was I hooked up the television, I hooked up the Foxtel, and I turned on the news. I thought, I'm going to see what's going on in the world. Now, mind you, before then, I had spent the last 3 months without a television and actually getting to that state where I was learning about who Trish was again. Where was she going? Learning from those previous mistakes that she had made so she could become a better person. Where did it all go pear-shaped? How can I improve on this? And I was feeling quite content and very relaxed. So I turned on the TV, I flicked over to the news, and then the first thing that was on the news was this poor baby had been left in a bus shelter. This poor little baby had been left in a bus shelter. And my heart just started bleeding and crying for this poor little baby. All these people had rallied together and raised over $1 million for this child. And let's just hope that that child is doing an awesome job today. But then I had to stop and reflect inside. The very first emotions I started feeling was so much sadness and pity. And then I turned it off and I got angry and annoyed and irritated. I was so frustrated. I was like, why would somebody do that to their child? And just really started kicking myself in the guts as such because of this issue. And that's when I had to stop. I had to realize that this was a very unfortunate situation, but it was out of my control. And I needed to learn how to process that information better. I needed to look at the situation and go, you know what, that's fantastic, they've raised $1 million for that child, rather than judging the parent for a story that I didn't know anything about. The child received some really, really great help. So start to remove your irritable brain. See how that goes. Give yourself a month. Turn off the TV. Turn off the radio. Only focus on listening, watching, and enjoying all those things that are going to lift you up. Take yourself to the beach. Enjoy some yoga or meditation. Read that book. Go and study that course. Do what it is that's going to lead you to being content and relaxed. And you'll be amazed how much that IBS will subside. Now, if you'd like to study the IBS Hypnosis Certification yourself, you can do it by browsing our webpage, which you will find at www.pellenandpalmer.com. Or if you're suffering from IBS yourself, we have a whole list of professionals on our professional directory, which is under trishpalmer.com. We have all of the links in the description, and please just go and have a browse and tap on them. So if you enjoyed this video, please, by all means, subscribe to the channel. We'd really love to have you on board. Have a browse around. There is a free Essential Hypnosis and NLP course available on here, as well as audio recordings to help you heal and to relax. So have a browse around the channel, subscribe, and I will see you in the future. Bye-bye.